In March of 2022, as interest rates began to increase in Canada, we saw home prices fall, and they fell very rapidly in some markets. They fell more modestly in other markets, and that makes sense. Interest rates go up, typically prices go down, especially how fast they were going up. But that was for sale price. But rental prices didn't go down when interest rates went up. In fact, they continue to go up at a very, very rapid pace and got to historic highs for a lot of markets all across Canada. I had an opportunity last Friday evening to go on CP24 and talk about a new rental report that came out by rentals.ca and Urban Nation. And the numbers are great, but it's also one of those reports that unless you actually dig into it, the headline could totally change your opinion on what is happening with rental prices. Because the headline is that rental prices are up, significantly up across Canada. But when you dig deeper into it, you realize that rental prices in the Greater Toronto area are actually going down. They're going down in Vancouver from where they were a year ago and even month over month. It's typically only the cheaper markets that you're seeing that year over year increase in the double digits. So I'm going to share the interview I did with CP24. But before I do that, I want to go over some of these actual numbers with you, show you what is happening. Now, I will say, even though in markets like Toronto and Vancouver, the rental prices are going down, it's not like we're going from, expensive prices to these crazy affordable prices. We're going down little bits, and going down percentage-wise means more than going up percentage-wise because you're starting from a bigger number. That's how the math works. But it's not like rentals have just automatically become more affordable. But I am encouraged moving forward here with the rental stock that I think is going to come to the market that I don't actually think, and I said this in my interview, I don't think in a year from now that rental prices will be higher in Toronto or Vancouver. I actually think they could be lower. Very unlikely we get back to pre-2020 rental prices, just like I feel the same way about housing sale prices. But let's take a look at this report and see what they are saying. So the headline you were seeing many places is that the asking rents for residential properties in Canada remain near a record high in April. And although that is true, let's look at the markets that are actually experiencing this growth in rental prices and trying to figure out why that's happened. So as we scroll down here, the top 10 in red are the most expensive cities. So Vancouver is still the most expensive, a one-bedroom, $2,600. But year over year for a one-bedroom, it's gone down 5%. For two bedrooms, average cost in Vancouver is $3,600, but year over year, we're down 3.6%. Burnaby followed below. They had a jump up in the one-bedroom prices, but a negative in the two-bedroom prices. Then when we come to Toronto, the third most expensive at $2,495 for a one-bedroom, almost a 3% decrease year over year, and a 0.5 point decrease month over month. A 2% decrease year over year for two bedrooms. So okay, it looks like Toronto's getting a little bit cheaper, but again, it's the third most expensive on this chart. Now, as we continue to go down here, I want to see the ones that are seeing the biggest decreases or biggest increases. So there's a few other markets that catch my attention. Barrie, Ontario, they were down 5% year over year for one bedrooms, and for two bedrooms down 10% year over year. But what about the markets with growth? Like, why are we talking about the fact that Canada rental prices are the highest they've ever been? Well, take a look at Halifax. It's on the one bedrooms only up just under 2%, but 15% in price increase on the two bedrooms. As we continue to go down here, Kingston, Ontario, up 8.3% on the one bedrooms, over 10% on the two bedrooms. As we keep going down, Gatineau, Quebec, 1.1 on the one bedrooms, but 15.3% on the two bedrooms. As we continue to go down this chart, these markets become less expensive. So most of the growth that you are seeing with the rental prices in Canada are actually in the markets that cost less. And not just cost less right now on the rental side of things, but cost less for purchasing properties as well. So Winnipeg, Manitoba, up almost 7% on one bedrooms, almost 10% on two bedrooms. Edmonton up 16% on one bedrooms, 11.8% on two bedrooms. As we keep going down here, Lethbridge, 11% for two bedrooms, almost 10% for one bedrooms. Regina, 15% for one bedrooms, 10% higher for two bedroom. And then wrapping up with Saskatoon, which is the most affordable market on this chart. It's up 8% for one bedrooms and 14.8% for two bedrooms. I'm going to put a link in the description of this video that you can go and check out that full report. I would highly recommend taking a look at it. I think they did a really good job. Now, I wanted to wait to show you my interview with CP24 so you could see my actual thoughts on this. And I will say that a lot of people don't know this. When I do the news or anybody does the news, they don't give me a list of questions, right? So I'm going on there live just trying to make sure I don't say something silly. But I did realize when I watched this interview back that I made one statement that I wish I could have taken back. I had said that if you rent in a building in Toronto after November 15th, 2019, it's not under rent control. And that statement is technically true, but I meant to say 2018. So the buildings built before November 15th, 2018 are in rent control, and the buildings that were built after that are not currently in rent control. And a lot of those buildings are these purpose-built rentals. So I hope you enjoy this interview I did with CP24. If you have any questions, please make sure to leave them below.
Rent continued to go up all across Canada.
A new report from Urbanation and Rentals.ca says the average asking rent for a home was up 9.3% in April compared with a year ago. That brought the average price of a one-bedroom unit up to about $1,900 a month, while a two-bedroom was priced at nearly $2,300. And for a closer look at this, we're joined live now by Tom Storey, a sales representative with Royal LePage Signature Realty. Thank you so much for joining us. The market, the renters market, has been bad for a while. Anybody in the GTA who's renting right now knows that. What is driving up rental prices recently?
So that number that you just said is obviously the big number, and that's Canada-wide. And if you look at the data more in depth, what you'll see is that a lot of that's being driven in Alberta. Main reason we have a ton of interprovincial migration happening right now, and a lot of people are going over, and there's huge demand there. I would say the silver lining here for people watching this in the GTA is that rental prices month over month have actually gone down in the Greater Toronto area, because we finally have the government coming and looking at this and saying, okay, we need more purpose-built rentals. We haven't really been building them in Toronto since the 70s and 80s, and it actually, moving forward, looks somewhat encouraging.
Okay, with the Bank of Canada expected, and emphasis on expected to start slashing interest rates, how could that impact the rental market? Could this bring some relief?
I hope it does, because when the rates started going up, so did rent. And it could bring relief in other ways as well. There's a lot of owners of real estate that have renters currently and investors that are thinking of selling right now because the rates are so high. So that would displace renters, and then they have to rent a new place at a potentially higher price. So it might not just be a direct decreasing rent, but for a lot of people currently renting, it could make a difference.
Tom, what do you hear from clients who are renting? How difficult is it? I know that you mentioned our numbers are actually much better than Western Canada's, but it's still really tough. What do you hear from people?
I think a lot of people are just discouraged because it's so competitive out there. And something that we have to keep in mind in Toronto, advice that we give to everybody that's looking to rent, is we have different rent control rules here. So if the building was built after November 15th, 2019, and you're renting in that building, it is not under rent control. And what falls in that category is all these new purpose-built rental buildings, which is great, by the way, that they're coming to the market. But a lot of people are being surprised that their rent is going up after that 1 year. So advice that we're giving a lot of people right now, other than getting your ducks in a row with credit and employment and moving quick on things, is if you want to not be involved in getting your rent hiked up a lot, look for a building built before 2019.
And another thing that could be making the rental market even hotter right now is a lot of people who are in the market for a home, but they can't afford one just yet. Can you talk about that piece?
That's exactly it. We started seeing that happening, where a lot of people that are right on the cusp of getting into the ownership market, as the rates continued to go up at a rapid pace, when they started going up, they were forced to become renters. Yeah. So then that brought all the demand to the rental side of the market. So if rates were to go down a little bit and more people could get into the housing market on the ownership side of things, you take a little bit of the demand away from the rental side, which could be good for overall rental prices.
So this time next year, where do you see us going in terms of rental prices? Are you hoping for a much better outlook, Tom?
Yeah, I actually am pretty encouraged by the supply that's coming, specifically on the rental side. Like when we look at who's going to bring the rental inventory, is it going to be investors buying pre-con projects, bringing them out as rentals? Is it going to be the government, or is it going to be the developers? And right now, the government is incentivizing developers to build more purpose-built rentals. I think we're going to have a lot of rental supply come to the market. A year from now, I don't think rent prices are going to be higher than they are today in the city of Toronto.
Okay. Tom Storey, sales rep with Royal LePage Signature Realty. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.